I can't believe I haven't made a Boulevardier yet. Well, there's only one way to fix that. This week, I'm making a Boulevardier. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Matt. I'm a whiskey nerd, and like I said, this week I'm making a Boulevardier. Now, special shout out to my friend Tim Kirkland from The Spirit of the Cocktail. He pointed out on my Woodford Reserve review that Woodford Reserve goes really well in a Boulevardier, and that got me thinking, I haven't made a Boulevardier yet, so this week that's what I'm making. So if you're a gin drinker, you essentially already know what a Boulevardier is. It's essentially just a Negroni but made with bourbon instead of gin. Or you could think of a Negroni as being a Boulevardier, except it's made with gin instead of bourbon. Now, the name for this cocktail I think comes from the Boulevardier magazine, which is where I think it first appeared, but since its first appearance it has been a staple on so many cocktail menus because it's nice, it's boozy, it's spirit forward, it's pretty easy to make, and it's a really enjoyable cocktail. The ingredients of it are really simple. It's just sweet vermouth, aperol or campari, and bourbon. Now, I'm using aperol because I find aperol is just a little bit softer, a little bit sweeter than campari. You can use either one, they're essentially interchangeable, just aperol a little bit sweeter, a little bit less alcohol behind it. So it's my personal preference, but if you want campari, you can use campari. For the bourbon, I'm using Woodford Reserve, but you can use pretty much any bourbon you want. And for the vermouth, I'm using Martini's Rosso Sweet Vermouth. So let's get making this cocktail. It's very straightforward and very easy. It's a stirred drink, so get your stirring glass and get a nice rock of ice in there to cool it all down. And the ratios are also pretty simple. So some people will just go for 1-1-1 of each of them, but I prefer going for 1.5 ounces of bourbon and then 1 ounce each of aperol and sweet vermouth. So I'm going to go in with 1.5 ounces of my Woodford Reserve bourbon. That's a nice, sweet, kind of oaky bourbon, and I think it goes really well with the slightly sweeter version of Campari, that's aperol. So we're going to go in with 1 ounce of aperol, and then we're going to go in with 1 ounce of Martini's Rosso Sweet Vermouth. Again, very straightforward, very easy. If you keep your vermouth in the fridge, it should be nice and quick to cool down, and that's all it is. We're going to stir it for about 20 to 30 seconds until the outside of the glass is nice and chilled. Okay, I can feel the outside of the glass. It's getting nice and cold now, so I know the drink is nice and cold. So I'm going to get our strainer up top, and we're going to get a nice rock of ice in a different glass and pour that over it. I just love that texture you get from an all booze cocktail. It's just kind of syrupy and thick. I think it looks really nice. And for a garnish, you could use an orange peel, you could use, some people say a grapefruit peel works really well. I like the kind of lemon aroma, so I'm going to just express the oils of a lemon peel, pop it over the edge, rub the top of it, and into the glass. And there you have it, a Boulevardier. Now, if you're new here, scroll down, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. I put a new cocktail recipe every Friday and a new whiskey review every Wednesday. So if you want to see more like this, you know what you need to do. Now, let's get into the taste. That is so good. My first ever Boulevardier I had, it was as if they put in 2 or 3 times as much Campari or aperol than they needed. It was so dry and so herbal. I actually didn't like Boulevardiers for ages until a friend made me one. I was like, it's such a different drink. So if you had a bad one in the past, maybe go for a sweeter bourbon, maybe go for the aperol instead of Campari, because that is so nice. It's fresh and herbal. There's some nice orange notes that come through. The botanical notes that come from the vermouth and coming from the aperol, they work really well with the oak notes you get from that Woodford Reserve. Woodford Reserve itself, quite nice, quite sweet. I think it plays off itself really well. The lemon aromas, I think, works really well. It adds a little bit of tartness, adds a little bit of kind of levity to the cocktail, a bit of brightness, whereas an orange peel might just make it kind of deeper and darker, kind of like an old-fashioned instead of a Boulevardier. This is absolutely a cocktail to have in your library, one that you can kind of just whip out and make for a friend if they're just thinking, I want a nice drink, but they don't know what they want. If they have had a Boulevardier in the past and they didn't like it, maybe you could make one with this specification and they would like it. Hell, if you've had a Boulevardier in the past and you didn't like it, give this spec a try. Maybe try swapping out the Campari for the aperol. Get that little bit of extra sweetness while still maintaining all those botanical notes. I think you might be pleasantly surprised. So I'm going to keep on enjoying this, and I'll see you next time. Sláinte.